Bill, thanks very much first off for speaking to us here at entertainment.ie. I saw the film there on Monday evening and thoroughly enjoyed it. It must have been a lot of fun to work on.
Yeah, it was. I know they always say that, but actually it was. It was a very cool collection of guys. We were on a boat. We floated in the springtime off the coast of Dorset in England. We had lots of good music and a pretty good script. So yeah, we had some fun.
Fantastic. And you've obviously worked with director Richard Curtis before a couple of times. And in fact, we won a BAFTA last time, I believe.
I did.
What was it like, again, for the third collaboration?
It's always good working with Richard Curtis, and I love working with Richard Curtis. He's a marvellous man. He's a wonderful writer. I actually said yes before I read the script, and then he urged me to read it, so I did out of a sense of duty. But I knew it would be good because the quality is always high. He's always funny, and he's a very cool guy, and he keeps a nice atmosphere on the set.
Right, and do you know if he wrote the role with you in mind?
Apparently, so he told other people, yeah, no, I think he did probably think, because we've worked together before and we get along. And and if you get a Richard Curtis script, it's a good day anyway. Yeah. And if he wrote the part for you, then it's Christmas.
Even better, even better. And I believe you live pretty close to him as well. So was there ever a case of him sort of hassling you down in the
No, somebody else. That's not true, actually.
No, really.
Not. No, somebody else asked me that. I think that's a little thing that's slipped in somewhere.
Yeah,
we're
it's
not
on
neighbors.
the internet, the bastion of truth and light.
Well, quite.
Okay, if you can tell us a little bit about your character in the film. You play Quentin, the sort of patriarchal character on the ship.
Yeah, Quentin. I'm not very big on backstory and stuff like that. But Richard and I did speculate that he obviously comes from a pretty old and traditional English family, and it's possible that he nicked a canaletto from the family stately home to pay for the boat. It's an odd situation.
Interesting backstory there.
Yeah, well, but it's an odd situation that if you're my age in 1967, it means you almost certainly fought in the war, and the fact that the only thing he wants to rescue from the ship is a painting of a Spitfire would suggest that he was probably in the RAF. So he went from being in uniform, and something happened in the interim, and he ended up wearing paisley shirts and running a rock and roll radio station. So it's quite an interesting span of history.
Yeah.
But he's obviously devoted to the music. And as England was a bit like that, the movie, there was a kind of there was a grey world, and there was a kind of a world that was in colour, that was coming to be in colour. So it's quite accurate in that respect.
I see, yeah. And a lot of Richard's films tend to have large ensemble casts, and this one is obviously no different. I mean, there's a lot of very, very talented and funny people on the set, and I'm sure it might be difficult for some directors to establish proper sort of character arcs and stories with an A, B, and a C for each of the characters, but I believe he did it quite well, as with his other films. And was it ever an issue with yourself or with the other cast about trying to have more focus on their own specific character?
No, one of the things that was that distinguished the set was that there was a complete absence of careerism, and there was no elbowing each other out of the way to get to the camera. They're classy guys, and they're very, very good. They're comic assassins. They don't need to do that kind of stuff to get ahead. And Richard also creates an atmosphere which doesn't really include any kind of static full behaviour. And he does, as you say, he can deal with a number of characters very expertly. He's an extraordinarily gifted writer.
Right, and if you could just tell us a little bit more about the shooting of the movie. I believe it must have been the indoor scenes which have been shot in a sound studio somewhere, but you were on a boat for a long time as well.
Yep, we were on a red boat with Radio Rock written on the side of it. We were off the coast of Dorset. It was springtime. We had a toasted sandwich maker. You could have a toasted cheese sandwich any time you wanted. We had loads and loads of Snicker bars and Mars bars, I remember, because I was trying not to eat too much chocolate because I'd just given up fags, and I was gorging my way out of cigarettes. We had massive, great speakers, which meant you were out at sea, so you could play the music as loud as you've ever heard music played. And there was a cue to the sound man who had every song in the world, and the sound man would play anything you wanted to hear. And there's something about being on a boat and being able to just fool around to any kind of music you want that's kind of glamorous.
Of course, yeah, of course. And the movie is loosely based on the story of Radio Caroline, amongst others, anyway, or taken inspiration from anyway. How familiar were you back in the day with the likes of Radio Caroline?
Like everybody knew about Radio Caroline. Radio Caroline, it's difficult to explain how it was a really big deal because you really did go from nothing to everything. You couldn't hear any of the new music. You could only hear your mum and dad's music, which was basically men and women singing in evening wear about the stars or the moon, and then cut 18 months later to Jimi Hendrix burning his guitar. You know, it was a radical shift, a shift that will never be required again, I don't think. There were also, just to keep everything square, there was some appalling records made in that time as well, just like always, you know what I mean? But there were also some, you know, and it was and 1967, I think, is Richard's favourite year, and it was a pretty good year, and you've got the Stones and the Kinks and the Small Faces and the Who and Tamla Motown and soul music, and they're all pretty good records. So, and some of the script was actually written because he wanted to include certain songs. There's a girl in it called Eleanor because there's a song by the Turtles called Eleanor, and he wanted it in the movie. There's a song called So Long Marianne by Leonard Cohen because rather there's a character called Marianne because there's a song by Leonard Cohen. So some of it was actually written around the numbers.
I see, yeah, because around 64, I believe, was when Caroline first went to the air, or 64, 65, something like that. So that was a time when there was a huge sort of societal shift amongst things, like you mentioned, people, you know, singing about the moon and the stars and things like that, and all of a sudden there's Jimmy burning his guitar. Yeah. So, and in the start of the film, it also says that BBC were playing something like 45 minutes a day of pop music and rock and roll like that. So, something like this was very crucial for I think, at least British society to step forward a little bit and to express themselves. Yeah, it was very big. It was a big deal. 22 million people or something in that region tuned in every day. In other words, everybody under 20 in the whole of the United Kingdom, virtually. Of course, yeah. Because suddenly you could get a signal and suddenly you could hear it all. And it did kind of reflect a feeling of change. I don't have any particular nostalgia for this period. I mean, the fact that it's called the swinging 60s, it swung. You know, there were good days and bad days, and some people I expect were swinging somewhere. I didn't move in the swinging circles personally. I should imagine it's a bit like when people refer to the roaring 20s. I don't suppose many people actually roared. Yeah. But you know, and it was. But there was some great music, and there was revolution in the air. It didn't, and then we got Richard Nixon and Margaret Thatcher, so that put paid to that. The film it's pretty much based within the framework of reality. I mean, it's a fictional piece, but it's inspired by. Did you take any inspiration from any particular people for the role you played, or did you just invent this character? I don't know what happens really. I didn't take any particular inspiration from any individuals. It's just a general feel. I'm not very big on research of that kind or character research. I just whatever information I need is generally in the script, certainly if it's one of Richard's. Yeah. And I just try and tell the story as best I can. I see. And because I could tell that there was perhaps a couple of characters that were more, you know, based on an actual historical figure, such as maybe Philip Seymour Hoffman's character was based on a fellow called Emperor Roscoe, who was a big DJ on Caroline back in the day. So, and I think John Peel was a little bit of inspiration for Rhys Ifans' character, well, at least elements of John Peel, because he was the DJ who sort of left Caroline and went off to America and then came back again, and so perhaps that's where Richard saw the inspiration from. Now, moving on, just with yourself, what can we see coming up from you in the future? The next thing you can see me in is a guinea pig movie. A guinea pig movie? Yeah, a $150 million guinea pig movie. Jerry Bruckheimer has a thing called G-Force. Nothing stands between the world and total destruction except 2 guinea pigs, a hamster, a mole, and a fly. Okay. And check it out. I'm trying to keep my profile with the under 9s lively. The important demographic. I'm pretty big with them already, obviously, with the squid, and I'm a vampire, generally speaking. Before you ask, I'm not one of the guinea pigs. Penelope Cruz voices the female guinea pig. Nicolas Cage is the mole. But all of the domestic appliances in your house at a given signal will try and hurt you. Your coffee machine, your hairdryer, your dishwasher, and your washing machine will be out to kill you. That's unfortunate. Unless the guinea pigs can think of something real fast. And it's also going to be 3D. So you can wear the glasses and the guinea pigs will fly around your head. So check it out. Excellent. That sounds. And I suggest you get used to it because I think there'll probably be G-Force 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Well, we've all have that to look forward to. Thanks very much, Bill Nighy, for taking the time to speak to us. My pleasure. Thanks, John. All the best.